Well, Drew, you've been very vocal about how much of a cathartic, emotional process putting this book together was. Kidderminster fans able to get their hands on it from today. Tell us a little bit about what they can expect to be finding in it.
Well, when I started this, it was never about. I didn't have the kind of career, a top career, where people are interested. Well, maybe. I mean, they might be, but that kind of year by year thing. I.e., when I was 8, this happened. 9, 10, 11, 12. It doesn't go like that. It's really. I was motivated to do it because of my work today with young players, seeing all these talented young guys, and I think we lose a lot of talent, and I think the FA is still missing a bit of it. I don't think we're losing them because of their technical abilities. I think we've got some amazing technical players now, some of the best in the world, but it's just this emotional, mental side, and I struggle with it. So the book really charts many chapters on different stories, different clubs I was at. There's a whole chapter, I think, on Kidderminster, and I think that chapter is actually one of the later ones that it talks about. I think the chapter title is "Being Too Professional Will Kill You," and I kind of talk about how my over-professionalism, we live in the modern world now in football, is over science, data, analysis, too much, and it would have blown my brains out. I think playing in the modern world, it was bad enough then, put so much pressure on myself to win that I did everything. I was the perfect athlete, if you like, in the way I maintained myself. And yet here's this great irony here. When I was here, you got Bo Henriksen, who was the other end of the scale in terms of that professionalism, but results were quadrupled mine every year. So there was this, how are you playing so relaxed? How are you so carefree? I could never find that place. I found it a few times, but probably, I think I said probably 5% of my career I probably found that day when I was carefree, which is 5%, I mean, it's at best.
Without calling it a self-help guide, as you like, is it as much telling your own individual story as it is, I guess, to let young players know who were at the stage in your journey maybe 20 odd years ago that the situation they might be in isn't unique, and there are ways to get help now and support? Yeah,
and I think I don't even think it's aimed at football, even though it's a football story. I mean, I had a beautiful message this morning online by a chap who's just read it. He said he just couldn't put it down, and he said to me, he said he's a business owner. It was a big business. He said, I know you're working a bit in the corporate world this last year. He said, it just resonates. So much you said resonated with me. Over trying, pressure, trusting yourself to trust others. So I think it covers. It's football stories. Every chapter is a football story. It's a really honest story of me in a certain situation, or then one of the clients I'm working with in football and golf business. So it kind of covers everything. But yeah.
And do you feel in a situation now where is it a case of relief that you've almost been able to get what you've been through on paper? I guess I mentioned cathartic at the beginning. That must be what the process was like.
So I've been asked that quite a bit. I'll say it wasn't that cathartic in terms of having finished the career at 33, 32 and a half, bankrupt, homeless, all that stuff. In Sporting Chance Rehab Clinic, Tony Adams, that he set that up, amazing place. The process, I'm 8 years out of there now. So the therapy and the work I had to do to get free of the addictions and all that stuff, I already got everything out. So it wasn't, but yeah, it's been a, I've loved the process actually. Unfortunately, being a bit of a perfectionist, I look back now and think, I missed that story, I missed that, that would have been brilliant, but...
Room for a second volume?
I think so, yeah, there's room for all, yeah, because at the end of the day, I had so many clubs, so many experiences, so many different things, yeah.
And in terms of sort of that crazy professional football world that you were in for a while, but the largest majority, I guess, that will purchase it looking for the footballing stories, there are a fair few in there, I would imagine. Yeah, there are. Stories of training ground fights and stuff. And I've apologised to a lot of people in there. There's stories of, when Lincoln City got relegated, and that was a really tough period the last year of my career from the Football League, and I was a major player there, senior player, and so there's stories at MK Dons under Paul Ince. So there's all these stories. There's a couple of there's one story of a young player I worked with at Liverpool talking about what Jurgen Klopp said to him, which I think is really brilliant. What Klopp said to him, and I articulate a little bit about how I then helped him work with that. And so there's loads of stories about different stuff. Yeah. Do you find as well that we are at a time now, I appreciate the story isn't exclusively one about mental health, but certainly awareness of it and access to things that can help improve that, particularly for men. Are you pleased to see how that's changing for the better now?
Massively. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm very lucky to be ambassador for a local charity, Kaleidoscope, which is a Birmingham-based mental health charity. Do some amazing work. They approached me a year or so ago Yeah, and I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding around what mental health is. So I think there's a danger that it could go too far, where everyone says I'm depressed, or everyone says life is life. We have bad days, we lose jobs, death, all the stuff that life presents is one thing, but mental health's a very different thing. And I think actually, for me, mental health is an accumulation of too many voices. Got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, to-do lists, and you just become overwhelmed, and then all of a sudden the mind will take us 10 years down the line before we know it, and oh my God, everything's going to crash and burn, and then I need to escape this, and then drinking can start, and all this. So I actually think I think it can be talked about. It's certainly in football, I think high achieving, high performing people, not that it just separates anybody, that natural desire to win can burden you with a lot of pressure you put on yourself, and I've seen that in the business world. It's not exclusive to football, it carries across all things.